Hey, everybody, welcome back to another Tuesday episode of the Raul Reyes Show. We've got a lot of exciting information to share, uh, aside from the fact that we look like we're just marching our way to World War III. Lots of stuff happening in Israel. A lot of stuff seems to be happening in Ukraine. We just don't have a lot of media about that. And of course, the border is still a mess. And have you seen the train wreck in Washington? And it's a little hard to keep up with all that. But we're going to get into it. I have a wonderful guest today. Frank Lopez is going to join us here in a little while. He's standing by. Of course, we invited a few other folks. We'll see if they pop in. But as is always the case, we want to push some people here. If you don't know it yet, and you're in the Medina County area, of course, he just covered my face here, but Wes Verdell is running against Andrew Murr, so we're always going to push this guy. Wes is a fantastic, uh, just a fantastic individual, just a good man, running to take over for Andrew Murr, who decided to impeach or vote to impeach Ken Paxton. I haven't heard from Andrew Murr anywhere. I haven't seen him. He's laying low. A lot of people are doing that. But brings me to my point here is I always go to the federal and then, of course, what's happening at the state level. And right now, you can't really have a conversation about Democrats because it's a whole Republican show right now. And if you were in my shoes 4.5 years ago, as we were jumping into politics and thinking, man, the Republicans are really going to want a guy like me and a few other, not just me, a whole lot of good conservatives that are out there, Christian conservatives, not perfect, imperfect, but that really, they heard the clarion call. I was just a total fan of what Donald Trump was doing. We're going to save America. And the key thing to someone like Donald Trump back in 2015/2016 was, looking back, he really wasn't an ideologue. He was just a simple, common sense businessman. Whether you think he's good at it or not, that's indifferent. What I'm saying is his notion that we just need to save America, and he was bashing not just Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton. I mean, he took it to her for sure, but he was also throwing down on Republicans. And 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 you look now, as I look back then, uh, folks like myself, I thought, okay, we're just going to join the Trump train, and man, we're going to get down the road. We're going to go to DC, and we're going to turn this thing around. We're going to get ourselves out of this $1 trillion credit card fiasco we're saddling our kids with. And lo and behold, none of that happened. And it didn't look. I'm no rocket scientist, and we always joke. I'm going to get myself into trouble here a little bit. Well, we're from Del Rio, right? We've already agreed. Del Rio's got a lot of smart people, because guy like me from Del Rio realized really quickly that a lot of our elected Republicans were anything but that. And that seems to be a recurring theme today. And so again, there's no, I mean, we can't go tackle Democrats. We can't even, Joe Biden, Joe Biden would be the easiest, president in the United States to counter at the congressional level. And the Republicans are in charge of Congress. But since day one, McCarthy, once he won the speakership, refused to do anything. We haven't seen all the videos for J6. I haven't seen any impeachment hearings. I haven't seen anybody get subpoenaed. The wall, immigration, nothing. And the one time they get an opportunity, this is Republicans, to really just hold the line, they go with a continuing resolution, which was going to lead to an omnibus bill, humongous $2 trillion additional dollars on top of the $5 trillion. That's for a total of $7 trillion. They were going to just stack it up in there until a guy named Matt Gaetz throws down. What's the point here? It's that we have a civil war inside the Republican Party. I've said that probably 4 or 5 days into my campaign for Congress, umpteen years, it seems like forever ago. But because people would, and by the way, God bless everybody who's really trying to be a good Republican. But really, a lot of you uh, uh, are now seeing the light, and I see a lot of emails and Twitter chats and all these things that I receive from followers, for people who over the years realize, hey, Raul's the real deal. I mean, he's just trying to do something good for the district, for Texas, for America, and they're realizing, um, I mean, we've got a problem, and yeah, it's Democrats, but if you look at what's happening at the federal level, it's Rhino. Uh, Really, they're just establishment politicians, and it looks to be like this big chunk of elected Republicans who've decided that we're going to get rich as long as we continue to have war after war after war. I mean, and I'm generalizing here. There's a whole lot of different things out there for why people are in power and want to stay in power. But if you look at the way things are, back when Trump took over, no skirmishes, no wars. You can understand why the military, or the people that produce bullets, guns, and airplanes and all this other stuff we use for war, they're a little upset because they're just sort of sitting there not being used. And so here we are now. Something's happening in Ukraine. If anybody can send me some video on Ukraine, I'd love to see it. I mean, the occasional thing pops up from drones or whatever. All I know is we're sending billions and billions of dollars to Ukraine, and and the president has made a connection. The deal is, we will give Israel money, but it's going to be tied into this Ukrainian money, and so we're at this place where the president has dictated what he wants to do, but we have no Congress to counter it. There's no balance right now, and for anybody who's going to look at me and go, "Oh no, I don't want to hear it," but Republicans are in charge. And I'll tell you straight out, I'm a fan of what Matt Gaetz did. We needed to get rid of McCarthy. He had to go. That's all there is to it. McCarthy was responsible for a lot of Republicans who really were not Republicans. They were just shills, rhinos, whatever you want to call them, people who are willing to get bought off and do whatever. And that's going on even today. I am not a fan. I'll tell you straight out. I'm not a fan of someone like Myra Flores. A lot of you will look at me and go, "What's wrong with Myra? She's pro amnesty." Okay. And she's taking a lot of money from Libra. And I'm just not picking on her, but you go down and look at Monica de la Cruz, and we call her Monica de la Crenshaw. Same thing. Those people, Monica de la Crenshaw actually voted to keep McCarthy. Well, and didn't they didn't want Jim Jordan, and so now we've moved on. Now we'll get into the speaker's race in a little bit with Frank, but the point being here, it's not just Republicans up in DC that we don't know their names, and they're right here in Texas, folks. And guess what? It's par for the course. We've got Hispanic female down in Congress, who a lot of Hispanics are going to listen to and say, "Yeah, what Monica says, really? You want amnesty for people we don't know will ever assimilate into this country, that were brought here illegally?" I'm going to say it straight out. If you cross the Rio Grande, through the Rio Grande, you're here illegally. That's all there is to it. And but this whole facade of, "Oh, Republicans play nice," that glass has been broken. And when I bring Frank on, I mean, Frank and I have had this conversation for a long time about how people just can't see what's happening. Well, it's front and center down in Texas and Austin, because if you're watching what's happening with Dade Phelan, right? Dade Phelan, uh, he's all about helping Democrats be committee chairs who, by the way, will kill every bill that is conservative, because that's really what's happened. And that didn't take me. And by the way, Frank was a former SREC. He'll tell you as well too. We go to these SREC meetings. Wonderful people. These are great people. They put out these priorities. They go up to their elected politicians, and they seem to just wipe their nalgas with that stuff. And that's buttocks for anybody who knows what nalgas are in Spanish. Okay, because they don't care about the base. Now let's go back to the federal government. Here you have this whole power play of getting rid of McCarthy, we have a chance. We have a chance to rectify things, to make it better. And I don't know if you saw Trump. So somebody, so first McCarthy's out, and then we're trying to get Jim Jordan three votes, three votes, and they had enough. They moved on to a guy named Tom Emmer. He's I think he's from Minnesota, and he couldn't get enough votes either. So they're behind closed doors because they have to nominate somebody and then bring them out to the actual vote, and then they move forward. Well, there's about 20 or so people who have been holding the line about not voting for these rhinos. By the way, Tom Emmer and McCarthy are like this. And Trump, I think today finally blasted him as a rhino. So he's out. And so we're down to there's 4 or 5 other candidates trying to make it in here. The overall point to this is, if you're a conservative, and I'm going to write an article about this, hopefully I'll have it out in the next week, but conservatives are literally stuck in political purgatory. I used to say Hispanics were stuck in political purgatory, and by that I mean because there was this really hard push in the last 2 or 3 years. Oh, Hispanics, Latinos are coming to the Republican Party, and they're coming to the Republican Party. And I kept saying, wait, so you want Hispanics, Latinos to go vote for Monica de la Crenshaw, Myra Flores, and Tony, NGO Gonzalez, as Frank would put it. These are all pro-open borders that have been adopted, puppeteered, bought for by big money that you see in DC right now, trying to keep people like McCarthy and Emmer, because these are the big appropriations people who want to keep spending money on bullets and guns and tanks for wars their children aren't going to go to war for. Think about that. Your kids, my kids, are the ones that are going to go to war if we keep screwing around with this, because it's all a facade when it comes to elected Republicans. There are the Matt Gaetz, Chip Roys of this world, to a certain extent, even Lauren Boebert, who got herself in trouble in a theater somewhere, whatever the case may be, and the McCarthys, Tom Emersons, Paul Ryans, John Boehners of this world. If you don't see it by now, I can't help you. Just turn off the show. Just stop looking. Don't go to Frank's. Don't go to any, because you're just not going to get it. You cannot look at your candidates and say, oh, you guys stop being negative. We're going to have to expose people. So candidates that are out there playing nice and this and that, listen, I don't want to listen to you. I want to know, what do you see amongst the other Republicans? Because if we send you to Congress, you got to be willing to say, like Matt Gaetz, McCarthy totally and royally sucks. He got 10 months to secure the border, use the power of the purse to stop the president from any more Ukraine money, or for that to start another war anywhere else, because that's where it looks like we're going. And he did zero. All he did was, let's play nice and get down the road with a continuing resolution, which would have led to $7 trillion budget, which is $2 trillion over. And we saddled our kids with that. Right now, nobody has a plan for how to even get a budget together. So all that said, this isn't just a Democrat problem. There is a rhino establishment inserted, puppeted Republican portion that we're going to have to deal with, and it's going to get ugly or uglier. So with all said, let me bring on Frank Lopez, the U.S. Border Patriot, so we can have a conversation about whatever he wants to talk about. But if you have comments, drop them off in the comment section, and we'll try to answer any of your questions. Frank, senor, how are you this late evening?
Hey, Raul, it's going good, man. You can hear me good?
I got you loud and clear. And our trusty technician, can you hear him pretty good?
Yeah, testing.
Yep, he's saying yes. Okay, we're good to go. All right, Frank, what do you think? Listen, let's go to what's happening up at the speaker fight.
Yeah.
Is this going to get solved? Is this going to get solved anytime soon?
Well, man, of course that's hard to say, Raul, because there's definitely, like you were saying, that civil war. I would say we have a small group of folks that are holding on against the globalist establishment unit party. And
Yeah.
so that guy Emmer today, uh, you know, I'm glad. It seems like he's out, and the reason I say I'm glad is because he was just going to be a continuation of McCarthy, Scalise, and this is the establishment, the Unity Party. You said earlier that he was responsible for getting rhinos, getting globalists, getting infiltrators in the Republican Party elected, like Tony Gonzalez in Congressional District 23. But he was also responsible for stacking the deck against America First patriots who were not going to give in. They were going to fight to execute the will of the American people. So Kevin McCarthy pulled strings, donated a lot of money, went and begged and pleaded with Trump to endorse people
Trump.
like
Yeah.
Tony Gonzalez. Ultimate mistake, of course. And look, a lot of people would kind of raise an eyebrow at that, but Kevin McCarthy was a part of that taking place as well. They pushed for the likes of Tony Gonzalez, and now look at the problems
By
we
the
have
way,
here.
Tom Emmer as well, when he first came out the gate, folks, was endorsed by Donald Trump, and then he became the biggest never Trump,
Yeah.
congressman, and so probably why Trump blasted him. But you're right, McCarthy
Yeah.
stacked the deck with a bunch
Yeah.
of people that, but behind the scenes, were really not
Yeah.
going to help back then President Trump get anything done.
Yeah. And so to answer your question about, is it going to get solved soon? It's hard to say, man, because you have these factions within. It is fractured, but we have to hold on. There's just some things that will. It's just principle, man. You got to stand on principle. There were guys that came out and persons that said, like Matt Gaetz came out and said, hey, well, most of these candidates or all these candidates have said they're for releasing the J6 tapes. That's a good thing. But then as people start looking at voting records of some of these folks, they come out and say, you know what, I can't support this speaker. And so thank God for those conservatives that are holding the line. Yeah, look, this is the way things are supposed to be. In the past, what was happening was just a rubber stamp, Raul.
Yeah.
And so now we've got a beachhead, and so you're very familiar with this from military lingo here. We have a beachhead of people within the Congress that are holding the line for America First, for conservative principles, for the Word of God, for Republican values. And it's unpopular. It's painful for people. It's sometimes, these are muscles that have not been used in a long, long time. They have atrophied. And so as these rights and these privileges and this manner of executing, the Robert's Rules of Order and all that other stuff, it's hurting people. But it's because they want the path of least resistance, Raul. And they want to get back to business as usual, which unfortunately, people in this hysteria are like, oh my God, government's not running, and all this other. Hey, you mean they're not spending our money like crazy?
You mean they're not sending any money to Ukraine? And by the way, so as you were saying that, I can't help but to think, we got a lot of softies out there, right? And you guys play nice, and oh, I can't believe you're tearing each other apart. I tell you what was that Reagan's commandment or whatever that
Reagan's 11th commandment?
Thou shalt not tear another Republican down.
Yeah, don't speak evil of other Republicans or whatever.
We did scorch earth on just about, and look, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
Let me play see if I can share this video here real quick. I want you all. This is old Liz Cheney here. She's back, and so she's on the State of the Union, and she's being asked, just a series of questions. But it goes to this lady here, and I'm going to put her up here real quick. This is Liz Cheney. She's back. She doesn't, like a bad wart, just won't go away or whatever. But she's being asked if, Biden or Trump. And let me just see if we can get this to play here without an issue. Let me turn this up a little bit. Ooh, it might be too loud. All right, here we go.
Who do you think is providing better leadership on the international stage right now, Biden or Trump?
Oh, certainly Biden.
Frank. I mean, that's insane, Frank. I mean,
Yeah.
and for anybody, this was one of the top three Republicans, right there next to Paul Ryan. At some point, John Boehner, but after Boehner left, Ryan took over.
Yeah.
And she's back. And what she's saying in this interview, folks, is that hey, you have this right wing, Republican, fringes of the right. And she's talking about, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Frank. She's talking about
Yeah.
Matt Gaetz. And I don't know about MJT, but I know that Matt Gaetz is very articulate, knows what he wants to do, but he sees what we all see, right, Frank? And that
Yeah.
is this clown here for 20 years, along with her father, have been responsible for more death and more wars than anybody can even put their names. Again,
Yeah.
let me just say this. Democrats are no better if you act like this lady here, but this lady just said, yeah, I'm going to vote for Biden, is pretty much what she's saying here.
Yeah.
And this is what kills me, Frank, is that you heard it while you ran for a campaign. They said, why would you run as an independent? Well, you're looking at it. This lady here is supposed to be a Republican, but she's going to go vote for Joe Biden. And
Yeah.
so this is what they call the uniparty, Frank. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So secretly, or that's, I'm sure that Tony Gonzalez and the other rhinos kind of agree with Liz Cheney's sentiment there. They are never Trumpers. They're Trump haters. Tony Gonzalez himself and Dan Crenshaw. Remember when we had this whole speaker fight going on in January to elect, select McCarthy.
Right.
Those guys were calling, the conservatives extremists. I think they even refer to them as domestic terrorists on one case. But it's because these guys are so entrenched, Raul. They're establishment, man. They are the unit party, and business for them. You made a reference to this, to Liz and her father killing millions of people because they feed the war machine.
Right.
They are the warmongers, the neocons that they want for the U.S. to be involved all over the world in disrupting, ousting, inciting wars, etc. Because they feed off the war machine. They feed, and I've been saying this. They feed off, make money. They are greedy. They make money off of death, destruction, and displacement. Obviously, death and destruction, war, bullets, gun, ammunition, all that kind of stuff, contracts to clean up the mess afterwards, etc. But the displacement part has to be with what we are seeing on the border, because eventually we saw it out of the Ukraine. Yeah, Russia versus Ukraine, and we start getting a bunch of Ukrainians and Middle East, Eastern Europeans over here as a result of that. Before that, Afghanistan, and man, they flooded into America, El Paso, and different places. I won't be surprised if Tony Gonzalez, he can be out there speaking about, oh, this was terrible what the Hamas did to the Jews, but behind closed doors and eventually in the open, he will be pushing for PLO people, displaced persons under the guise of humanitarianism or whatever, to come to America as well, Raul, because he is a globalist.
Yeah, that's how they make their money, Frank, is they
out the contracts.
Yeah, and Endeavors is if you didn't know this, folks, is headquarters out of San Antonio, and of course they're practically all over the place now, for sure. They're the ones that run the San Pedro Avenue NGO down there, Frank. You've been down there in San Antonio. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's being run actually by Endeavors, Catholic Charities, and a couple of other groups. But Catholic Charities, Endeavors, these NGOs are making hundreds of millions of dollars throughout the country as part of this invasion.
Well, and let me show this to folks here real quick. This is Donald Trump earlier today. You'll see to the left here, it says he's essentially calling Tom Emmer a rhino, and this is just 7 or 8 hours now fresh. And at first he was kind of ambivalent, Frank. He was, it's a guy that likes me, and he finally just blasted him. And so one thing to note for everybody here, because we want to provide nothing but the truth here, is on this last vote for Emmer, 24 or 27 Republicans voted against this guy in that private, we want to nominate Emmer. And so it didn't happen. But I tell you who did not vote against him was Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert. So you have to ask yourself what's going on behind the scenes. And I always try to assess these things because some people like Trump, none of us wanted McCarthy, and somehow he endorsed him to speaker back in January. Now we're here. We have no speaker. Tom Emmer, who's next in line after Jim Jordan failed to win the speakership, is going up for the vote. That you would think that Lauren Boebert, Matt Gaetz, the guy who's responsible for getting rid of McCarthy, would be voting against Emmer, who is a rhino for all practical purposes, but he didn't. So I'm just wondering, Frank, do you think behind the scenes there's more than 20 or 30 true patriots that are sort of just saving each other? Because Matt Gaetz can only take so much heat, and so can Lauren Boebert. I mean, if you didn't know, Lauren Boebert got herself into the political scene here at a theater near you. We'll leave that alone. But you've noticed that they're sort of changing who's up, to bat at the 20 that keep rhino speakers from coming. I guess the point is there is a light at the end of the tunnel here, right? It doesn't look like it's just 4, 5, 8 people that were responsible for McCarthy being ousted. There seems to be like 40 of these folks in there. What do you think?
Yeah. And the Freedom Caucus, there's 20, 30, 40 of these guys. And that was the first thought I had, that there's a bit of trading off probably going on. Because these guys were taking a lot of heat in a sense. Hey, look at the mess you created. Right now, we don't even have a speaker in the midst of all this that's happening. Look, Israel can take care of itself. As a matter of fact, we don't need to be meddling around with Israel like Biden is already doing, telling them to hold off on the ground invasion, etc. Israel is on the ground. They know what they need to do. We know that Biden is compromised. We know he's a traitor to America. We know he's in the pocket of China. We know that he has given money to Iran, and Iran is the snake's head behind all this. So if we don't have a speaker right now, and Congress is not meddling, and Congress is not spending our money, that's probably better for us Americans. We are still functioning. America's still going on. Bills are being paid. People are shopping.
Yeah, everybody's getting paid.
Work.
Everybody's moving with their life, right?
Life is going on, brother. So they'll figure it out at some point. They're going to have to work some stuff out behind the scenes, obviously, as you said. And I do agree that maybe there was a little bit of, hey, look, we're going to soften the blow here. They probably looked at it and said, how many people were not going to vote for this guy? And so they just made a safe vote. Hey, look, I'm not being totally contrary here or whatever.
For everybody who's listening, for everybody who's hearing us out, I guess the point here is that, don't despair. It's not just 8 people that is up against the other 180 or whatever. I think there's at least 30 or 40 that are really keeping the rhinos at bay. So there really is a beachhead. There is an opportunity here to bring it in for a landing and try to do something. I said this before at last week, Frank, even with Jim Jordan, we weren't going to get everything we wanted, but certainly anything that's not McCarthy or McCarthy-like is going to get us a win. And remember, folks, I always say, John Boehner beget Paul Ryan, who beget McCarthy, and they were on their way to eventually replace McCarthy with one of their own. And so, but this is this young guns. Remember that, Frank, the young guns crowd from back in the day where Paul Ryan and the guy that lost his seat during the primary, a complete surprise, Eric Cantor. Remember that guy?
Yeah.
All of a sudden and by the way, he's still in the background. He's working for Paul Ryan somewhere, and John Boehner, who's out selling weed at the federal level. Really, he's running a company that sells hemp or something like that.
Hydroponics of some kind. And Ryan is involved with Fox News. Folks need to remember that the Fox.
Well, and that goes back to my monologue, Frank. Is that, and we're seeing this civil war.
Yeah.
But it's up against this establishment Republican Party that has no problem being in second place to Democrats because they make a lot of money being the runner-ups, and they get they get rich off of that. They get their wars. The
Yeah.
money machine keeps grinding away. Meanwhile, down here at the border, we're a mess. Fentanyl is all over the place. We've got all kinds of people. See, it's just not Central and South Americans now. We have Middle Easterners coming into this country, and you're right. I don't think Tony Gonzalez would bat an eye if Palestinians were to come through the border,
Yeah.
and mark my words, nobody knows that that's already is or isn't happening. So I'm not confirming
Yeah.
it. What I'm saying is my guess, Frank, is that even if they came through the border, we wouldn't know it anyway. It's that porous, it's that
Yeah.
open, and the system is set up to bring these people in the dead of night. When you wake up, all the white buses are gone, at least the ones that aren't late,
Yeah.
and millions of people. I think last month something like 350,000 or maybe 400,000 illegal aliens have already been processed. This is
Yeah,
nuts.
it's crazy, and so I'm glad you touched on this subject, Raul, because look, yeah, there's a lot of money. These contractor, uh, contractors getting millions of dollars. I was reading somewhere where one company you got 100 and something. It was the Wind Transportation Company, WYNNE. They own this white buses. A lot of these white buses. I
Yeah.
think they got over $100 million in that contract to bus people into the interior of the country. They were part of the Abbott busing initiative he had going on to send them in, whatever. But so that's one thing. The other thing is that we have known, Raul, you were down in South America. You know this better than I do.
Yeah.
In the tri-border region where Hezbollah had set up camp, we had terrorist organizations interacting with Colombia, Venezuela, these countries down there already. And so we have known for decades now that they had established a foothold in South America, and they were marrying into the South Americans, marrying into Central American, marrying into Mexican society, having children, indoctrinating those children in militant Islam. And so they've been in this hemisphere for a long time. And yes, you're right. They have been creeping into our borders now for decades. And of course, Border Patrol, et cetera, they've done their best. That's why they need to be out in the field. That's why they shouldn't be processing the way that they're processing right now, because that does expose our belly to the enemy. And it's right now it's the hot button, talking point of the day, Hezbollah, Hamas, and all this stuff. But we have Chinese coming in. We have Africans, Raul, from nations like Somalia, Yemen, some of these very aggressive, diabolical, pirating kind of gangs from these countries, Sudanese, etc., that are
Right.
also coming into our border. And so there's going to be terrible days of reckoning here in communities throughout our country when these people start rising up, because they come from cultures of death. Their way of life is not our way of life. Their view on life and family and the sanctity of marriage and of relationships, they don't view things the way we do from a westernized perspective. And so they're going to rise up at some point or another. I'm already hearing from folks that deal with these people in the interior, like for instance, at servicing centers, at social service centers,
Yeah.
at hiring agencies. These people are demanding. They are rude. They feel entitled. They are hostile and angry, and so whenever they expect to be given everything, and if they don't speak English, Raul, it is very difficult for them to get a job. And so what is happening? These people are getting on our social service programs. They are getting their rent paid. They are getting EBT and the other cards given to them. So it is costing us tremendously. But we're all afraid of the day when violence breaks out, because
Well,
that is what they know. That is the way they live.
Frank, I think we're already there. I mean, did you see with all the universities and colleges were,
It's
you
a
know,
powder keg, bro. It's a fuse.
yeah, and we had a lot of protest out in all kinds of places. What really surprised me, and I was looking for it here, I apologize for sort of looking away here, but in Plano, Texas,
Yeah.
the Hamas club or whatever it is out there, Palestinian Association of whatever that school is, the kids actually they left the school and were out there in support of Hamas. By the way, that's right here in the great state of Texas. And so if you look at what's happening in France, I mean, it's not France anymore. New York, Frank, also, everybody was on Times Square. I don't know if you saw that as well.
Oh, yeah.
And so these aren't just hundreds of people. These are thousands of sympathizers with Hamas who bona fidely went into Israel, and it just killed a lot of people. Now for everybody who says, oh, well, then, they're killing a bunch of people. Look, I don't think that just killing babies, and doesn't matter what side you are, but people forget, Frank, that Hamas started this, right?
Yeah.
And now where are all these people going? Because they're not being allowed into Egypt. Jordan doesn't want them, and so we're in serious trouble here, because that border is wide open. And if you haven't seen this, every week I put up the numbers for other than Central and South Americans. I guess they call them special interest people, or whatever the case may be, because they come from places where terrorism is more than likely to happen than not. Those numbers monthly, Frank, have increased big time. This has got to be a nightmare for yourself and other Border Patrol agents who actually are still active working. This cannot be well for morale. It cannot be. I mean, we're from Del Rio, Texas, and this is insane. I mean, the whole place is a mess, because not only do we have a president that isn't doing anything to solve it. And here's the thing: more money on an omnibus bill for border security isn't the answer.
Yeah.
Because all it is to get more processing centers, more white buses, more judges, more whatever, because everybody's Frank, they're just pushing for more money for border security. I hear this down in Austin, Texas as well.
Yeah.
In fact, right now they're debating more money for Operation Lone Star. The senators were in their seats today having a conversation about $1.5 billion more to Operation Lone Star. And I mean, this is nuts. Unless Greg Abbott grows a pair and actually uses the Constitution fully to the extent that he was granted as a governor of the great state of Texas, and puts his foot down, building more walls isn't going to be the answer, because guess what? The gates are wide open, and the federal agents, because they've been ordered to allow people to come in, are cutting the barbed wire that Texas is putting up. This is not confusing, right, Frank? Because the bottom line is both the federal government has opened the borders, and the state government here in Texas has refused to do it constitutionally. That is, stop this invasion, right?
Yeah. And it's look, I go back to greed, bro. There's a lot of money to be made in all of this stuff, and the other, what goes, hand in glove with greed is the lust for power. And so when you say 1.5 billion for Operation Lone Star, the commander of DPS, McGraw. Yeah, dude, he's drooling on himself, man. He just he's gonna have to change out his shorts, because he's in an ecstasy here, orgasm, whatever, because his agency is growing, brother. Yeah. That's what they love. They want bigger government. They want more people to control, because what happens, Raul, is that eventually they are going to need more money to pay these troopers that they hire, more money to keep the infrastructure, the operations, the facilities going. And some of that money eventually makes itself into other aspects of state operations, but they are into building kingdoms. And so the solution for them, obviously, and remember, government thrives on crisis and dilemma and disaster. They just see it as an opportunity to get fatter and get bigger. Eventually, they need to sustain that. and
Yeah.
it's just an increasing tax burden on middle income families. It's killing us, man. The middle income class in Texas is
Oh,
disappearing.
listen, and,
Yeah.
and so let's go back to the monologue for a second, and I'm going to put this lady's picture up here because let me just do this now. This is the 2-minute, rag on Don Buckingham
Oh, geez.
session.
Yeah.
So here she is today, as she's been doing every day, Frank. And this goes back to my theme. Who wants to be a real Republican? Not this lady here, because she keeps putting on this hat and she's out there in Twitter, folks, and everywhere else, telling the whole world how, oh, Biden sucks. Oh, Biden is terrible. But let me tell you what she hasn't done. She hasn't once criticized Greg Abbott like the rest of us. If you haven't realized that Greg Abbott is the worst governor we ever had, for anybody who's always bringing all these jobs, does us no good if we have no security down here on the border. And you're starting to see it in Dallas, Houston, everywhere else. It's no longer just Kinney County, which is Brackettville, Texas, a little town of 1,200 people with
Yeah.
2 car chases on average a day. This is happening in San Angelo, Texas, Abilene, Texas. This is all over the place. This lady always comes out there, Frank, talking about how, oh, we're doing everything we can. She's the land commissioner, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
But she won't criticize. So one day, when, mark my words, she's going to run for governor, you remember every Republican, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, the Civil War, every Republican like this one who has
Yeah.
not put her foot down or his foot down today to declare that the most important thing is Texas lives, here in Texas, American lives, and that you ought to be able to criticize even your own governor. If she did that, she'd be governor next year, but she's never going to do that because she's playing politics. What she doesn't know,
Yeah.
and this is my point to everybody, what a lot of Republicans don't know, like Tony Gonzalez and Mitch McConnell and John Cornyn in our state, is that you now know better.
Yeah.
You know what's happening. If you still, and I said this earlier, if you still don't see the Civil War and you look at us and you say, you've got to play nice with who?
Yeah.
This Republican, because she's terrible. She's
Yeah.
terrible. And so, or Abbott for that sake. I mean, because he's
Yeah.
terrible too. So really,
Yeah.
the Republican Party is in shambles, in my opinion, in that we figured out that a guy like Dade Phelan really is not. Who thinks Dade Phelan is a Republican? My
Yeah.
Lord. So now let's go to a guy like Tony Gonzalez, because that's our favorite topic here. Is what I want to know, and I've asked this before, Frank, and I'm going to keep asking. I mean, no disrespect for any of the organizations, but is the Farm Bureau going to continue to endorse this guy? Are the young Republicans going to endorse this guy? Are they? What about the Republican women, specifically down here in San Antonio?
Yeah.
You have Republican in your name. At what point do you realize people think you're full of BS if you keep endorsing people like this and people like Tony Gonzalez? Because you're not going to be able to bring in more people, conservatives, period, in the story. But let me go there for a second. You're not going to be able to bring in, Frank, Hispanics / Latinos like they want. You're not going to be, Black America's not going to listen to you, Asian America. And for everybody who thinks we got to grow the tent in the Republican Party, how do you do it with someone like the governor, Greg Abbott, who's going to ask for another $1.5 billion for Operation Lone Star that doesn't do anything but get us another 100,000 illegals a month? Because that's what we're averaging. Every month we're going up 50,000 to 100,000 people. And but anyway, Frank, I mean, I always throw this lady's name on the floor here because it goes to the bigger picture. You and I have been dealing this for a long time here since we've been involved, and that is people want you to be a good Republican, but it only gets to people like McCarthy, Tony Gonzalez, Governor Greg Abbott, people who aren't doing the will of the people, Frank. I mean, we're in trouble here. So when I say conservatives are in a political purgatory, what I'm telling you is, where do we go? Where do we go? And then you see a guy like Robert Kennedy Jr., who sees the light. His own party, Frank, doesn't want to give him a chance. I just lost my earpiece. Doesn't want to give him a chance to debate for the position of the primary winner when it comes to the president's selection.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so guess what? He's running as an independent.
So
And
he
here
went
we are.
independent.
Yeah, and more and more, Frank, and you did this the last time. I mean, that's visionary in the sense that where do conservatives go
Yeah.
if we cannot get real conservatives through the primaries? Because they have all the bucks,
Yeah.
buddy. They have all the bucks.
Yeah, so you're right. Look, so many different things on that. So one thing, my question, kind of piggyback with what you're saying, is, what are these same people going to do? When right now the furor, the anger against the rhinos is such. The Paxton impeachers and the folks that didn't vote for Jordan here in Texas, like Granger and Gonzalez. Everybody's angry. Get him out. Get him out. Get him out. My question is, what are you going to do the day after election day if they don't get beat? And then what you're gonna hear, bro, is that, well,
Keep it red, buddy.
keep it red, vote red, keep
Code red.
whatever, bro.
No
And
code
so,
red. No code red, guys.
yeah, and so what I see happening here, Raul, is we people are breaking away. You were talking about people waking up. People are realizing, and some have known for a while now, but some other are just getting on board. It's a popularity contest. It's a crumpets and tea, rub and elbow environment that's going on.
I want a picture with the governor kind of crap. Yeah.
Kind of stuff, bro. But yet the house is burning down, and these people are doing nothing a serious, significant, other than smoke and mirrors, just blowing up people's rear ends here with dog and pony shows. And meanwhile, we are in serious trouble in this country, and there is a guerrilla factor within the Republican Party that is saying, look, for now, we have no other, capable third party to compete.
Yeah.
And so people are trying to, at least let me get into the machine and let me study the machine. And I believe this is what Gates and some of these other people have done is, okay, you use the process against itself. You use the internal mechanisms of the machine and you throw a monkey wrench into it. And people don't agree with it. They don't like it because
they disparage you for it, right? Because you're not a good Republican, you're a bum thrower or whatever, and yet they don't realize that. And here's
it's the medicine, bro. It is the antidote, and sometimes the medicine tastes uglier. But anyways.
Well, and here's the thing. I think a guy like Matt Gaetz, however he got in, and he took no PAC money, so he's a articulate, very well-spoken guy, and he becomes the guy they try to outcast because guess what? He actually researches all the rules and the rules of the House that allowed him to do what he did. You see, and that's what we need. We need strategists. We need tacticians that can get into Congress and break the mold. Because guess what? The mold currently has us open borders with people from who knows where coming in, now terrorists, with a going to $35 trillion deficit, with kids who seem to think that praising Hamas and what they did in Israel is a good thing, because that's really what's happening in our schools. I mean, you saw it across the universities, you see it across cities, and people are waking up going, when did this happen to America? Well, you remained silent for too long. You wanted to play nice with other Republicans when inside the tent, the wolf was inside the tent, right?
And so there's a lesson to be learned in all of this, Manny. I'm sorry, Raul. I was thinking about, but anyways, there's a lesson to be learned in all of this, being that, for instance, what is going on with the speaker race, brother, it's exposing as well. It is exposing the rhinos, the globalists, the uniparty people within the Republican Party, within the congressional offices, so that people in the home districts can look at their people and say, hey, man, you know what? This guy is not for us. He is for the party. He is for the greed. The other thing about these kids rising up in these college campuses and this, events that are gatherings, protests, whatever, solidarity gatherings that are taking place throughout American cities. It is also, I think, waking up the alphabet agencies, FBI, NSA, CIA, all these other people, this whole time, think about it, Raul, they have been calling those of us who love freedom, who love America, have been sounding the alarm,
Domestic terrorists, buddy.
Exactly. But here are your real domestic terrorists. Here are your people within our own society who love and embrace and preach death to your fellow human being just because of the way you were born, just because of who you are. And they are not just political ideologues, but they are the true domestic terrorists in training and in waiting. They're being blatant about it. And you know as well as I do, Raul, that all it takes, they are the powder keg. There is a fuse out there somewheres. And we saw it in January 6th, and we have seen it in the way that the CIA and all these other agencies operate. They will infiltrate and incite and inflame. And then what happens is, people get caught up in the aftermath of all of that.
And what's crazy to me is here a couple of days ago, right? You have a lot of Palestinians led by Talib or whatever the congressman lady is. They actually breached the gates. They actually went inside. They sat in. They were just loud and obnoxious, breaking stuff. But I don't see any of them going to jail. Real quick, let me show you this here. See if I can share this one. So these are. Let me see if I can bring this one up here. Yeah, there it is. I want to show you, for everybody who's wondering who's running for the speakership, these were the folks that were in the beginning. And I like Brian Donalds over there. There's Tom Emmer in the middle. I've heard of Hearn from Oklahoma. I don't know who Johnson was necessarily, but Austin Scott from Georgia, I've seen and heard him. Pete Sessions is from Texas. He was running. All these people fell out, and this guy right here in the middle, Tom Emmer, popped in. Doesn't look like he's going to make it. And so what next? Let's see if I can bring this one up here. This is what's next here. Let me show you this one.
And as you're saying, look, as you're talking about the real quick, Raul, they don't have a speaker, but the committees are still operating. Committees are still investigating. They're still calling witnesses. So that aspect of it is still taking place.
Yeah, and what I'm showing here, Frank, is McCarthy. Now, this is just maybe 2 hours ago. I know it says 34 minutes ago, but McCarthy is floating a partnership with Jim Jordan as assistant speaker. So McCarthy's trying to get himself back in here, folks. This is how the swamp works, right? So they got rid of. So here comes Matt Gaetz, throws a grenade. McCarthy's gone. Here we are looking for a speaker. They themselves are just as tactical and as smart as what Matt Gaetz is. So they're trying to stay in power. This is how they want to do it. McCarthy seems to try to make it back into the stronghold, Frank. If he does that, we will lose just about every election in 24, because I think America in general, they've had it with leftist, communist Democrats, but they're not going to put up with Republicans like this anymore. Even normal people, layman people, have just had enough of this. What do you think?
Exactly. And look, you said something, and a lot of little bunny trails I wanted to go off on here. But one thing for sure, bro, you were talking about the Republican Party trying to bring on Hispanics. But yet what Kevin McCarthy and others have done is find the open borders, amnesty, and in the case of Tony Gonzalez and a few others, true liberal globalists, neocons. Remember, Tony Gonzalez was brought up in Marco Rubio's office when he was still in the Navy. And so he is a very useful puppet for these people, for LULAC, the amnesty people. And so what is happening here with these folks, Raul, is that we have a moment in time that is taking place where all these operations are being exposed, and people are seeing the way they operated. And so I posted some links to Libre Initiative stuff, because Hispanics are being gaslighted. They are being tricked by this Libre initiative, which has funding from Americans for Prosperity and the Koch brothers.
Yeah.
And they're running around predominantly Hispanic areas, doing a lot of good deeds, buying wheelchairs and busing people to appointments, medical appointments, et cetera, et cetera. But then they pull the trigger on election day and they say, vote for these people, go block walk for these people. And the Libre Initiative, who endorsed Tony Gonzalez, who endorsed Mayra Flores, who is operating right now in the San Antonio area, recruiting people, they will pull the trigger and say, now go to work to elect these people. And they're open borders globalists that they're pushing for, and so people see this as good. Oh, look, hey, they're trying to bring Hispanics aboard. And what you said earlier is we're waking up. And here in Texas, Los Tejanos down here, we're not going to have it. We're not going to have it. We know what is stinking, rotten, dead about the Democrat Party, and we see the same malodorous, nasty smell emanating from these kinds of Republicans, and so we don't want nothing to do with them either. And I've said it, you've heard me say it before, is we're not going to get away from one overlord to go to another, and as a matter of fact, we have one true Lord, which is Jesus Christ. And so we need to be careful about the way that they want to use us.
No, I would agree. And I think, to me, look, I think and I'm not going to be careful with this. What I'm saying is, I think part of why Black America has sustained such a huge, just punch to the family life over the last 30, 40 years is
fatherlessness.
Right. This is what they did to Black America.
Our friend Alan West would say that all the time.
Right. This is what they did. And now, look at the largest culturally Hispanic population is growing, and they see that, folks. This is why they just don't dislike us. They hate Frank and Raul and anybody else who's out there professing the truth. Because one, look, we certainly never going to be Democrats. Frank and I have been on the Republican side, but like many others, we saw it early on that elected Republicans are just as puppeted as a lot of these Democrats. And this is why when you go to Congress, like a guy like Tony Gonzalez, he's got nothing up in the brain to do anything other than to try to make money, because he's not like Matt Gaetz trying to really solve the problem and breaking down that cartel of politicians who have literally put us in debt, put our children in harm's way with these open borders. And you can just go on and on. I mean, we can talk fentanyl, we can talk the Chinese, we can talk Middle Easterners now in the country. We're not in a good place here. And then, unfortunately, we have a president who doesn't seem to be well health-wise, let alone that he's a Democrat. Forget that for a second. But something is not right with Joe Biden. There's some kind of health issue, and here we are on the brink of World War III. For anybody who was tracking earlier, look, you've got, I think the reason Joe Biden goes to Israel is because allegedly he's trying to talk Netanyahu from starting the ground war, because they were afraid that if they did that, that Hezbollah in the north would, supported by Iran, would come down, crushing down. And that would seem that the president was trying to avert a bigger geographical war. And so that's sort of what everybody's talking about. I think the president was there just to take a stance publicly and politically, because he has no other play. We have no other play in this. If the Israelis are going to go into Gaza and just do what they need to do, we're not going to stop them.
So this is 23 years as an officer in the Air Force. You served. I served in the military. They're an autopilot right now. Plans, policies, measures have kicked in. That's why we have 2 carrier groups in the Mediterranean. That's why we have our air bases, heightened up.
High alert.
Thank God for those protocols, which are kicking into place right now, because Biden is he's mindless, bro. He is somebody's puppet. Obama's puppet is what he is, and so yeah, uh, he doesn't have anything else than just uh, what was it, the term, just the pomp and circumstance of a statescraft is what he's doing right now. There's nobody in the house, the lights are out, and so thank God at least that our protocols have kicked in for some self-preservation. I'm gonna side with the Israelis on this. Look, and you talk within here the states. If a neighboring state or a neighboring country was allowing known terrorists, known killers, and purveyors of atrocities
Yeah.
to go into your home state and do these kinds of things, you would do something about it. Now, I'm saying that in general. I'm a bit concerned what I'm seeing down here in the border, Raul, with millions of people coming in. Now, thank God that people in Chicago and some of these other places are actually standing up. I was just watching a story today.
Yes. Well,
where-
listen,
well, in
Chicago,
Chicago,
people are saying, "Hey, what the hell's going on here? We've had
and they're
enough of
actually
this."
barricading, and they are actually getting in protest to where they don't want these migrant centers being put up in their neighborhoods, and they are actually blocking roads and stuff like that. Now you got to be careful with that, but what's happening is all this stuff, and that's kind of where I went off on a little rabbit trail earlier. All these events are moving to wake people up. The Black community is waking up. The Hispanics need to wake up, and the people controlling the Republican Party, the people controlling the Democrat Party, they want to hold on to that power and that money. And what they have been doing for decades now, Raul, is indoctrinating, social engineering, cultural conditioning. They have been teaching the faithful, loyal masses how to think and how to vote. And so what happens is sometimes, and I'm going to use a crude, analogy here. If you're out mountain climbing somewhere and you get stuck in a crevice and your arm is so wedged in there that there's no other way for you to get out of there, you got to do like that one dude did out in Arizona or whatever. He cut off his arm to live. A bit disformed and a bit with less functionality, but he lived. And so people are afraid of that. We have become so complacent and in such comfortable places. And it really concerns me, bro, because when the time comes to act for self-preservation, when the time comes for self-defense and defense of your family and your children, our American men and women, but primarily our American men, going to be ready to fight the fight, as nasty as it is. Now, you as a former warrior and me myself, we know the cost is going to be high. We know it's going to be ugly and horrible and painful. And so that's why we want it averted at all costs. But there comes a time when you have got to act decisively, sometimes extremely, to survive. And America is in a very dangerous, precarious place, Raul, because greedy, immoral, feckless politicians have gotten us to this point. And so maybe perhaps too late, people of rectitude, of integrity, of honor, of faith based principles have decided to get in. I hope it's not too late, brother. I hope really it's not too late.
Listen, and you and I have been doing this, and we do it. I do it on my show. I know you do it on yours. I mean, Christian men are going to have to stand up, and they're going to have to start leading the way here, because I think we've lost that leadership of men who are willing to just stand up and say, hey, this is not just not smart, this is stupid and insane, because what you're doing in schools, what you're doing in colleges, what you're doing at the border, I mean, a lot of folks are just they're Houston Astros and the Rangers got more attention last night than the border down in the road and down here, and all the whiles, you got guys like Tony Gonzalez and Eddie Morales, who's the Democrat down in Del Rio, and all these folks just doing absolutely nothing. What really, I think, I see now is all of a sudden you got a lot of Republicans in the Senate or in the state legislature, like this Leach guy, saying, "Hey, we're gonna border security." Why didn't they do it back in January, February when the first legislative session? They waited. They waited. They kissed
Yeah.
Dave Phelan's ass, did whatever he wanted, and now they're all highlighted as primary targets to
Yeah.
get rid of them. But I think, Frank, and this is my concern, and that's the point. We have political uh, visuals, targets of people that need to be primaried and removed out of their offices.
Yeah.
But how many Christian men are going to stand up and say, "Hey, we're going to get after it"? And because here's the thing, you and I had every reason to quit like 2 or
Yeah.
3 years ago. Here we were trying to do the right thing, a little bit confused in the beginning from at least my own, just naiveness
Yeah.
of why is it that you absolutely don't like me? Because even people like in Del Rio, Texas, where I'm from,
Yeah.
folks, we've got people there still supporting other candidates for other races, and then you wonder why, of course, places like the border are a little bit impoverished. They can't get manufacturing jobs down there because we have idiots who are picking the wrong.
Yeah.
And Frank knows who I'm talking about. That's why we've got idiots in places everywhere who, even after they see a guy like Frank and Raul
Yeah.
and everybody else, still think, "Are you sure you're the guy?" I'm like, listen,
Yeah.
how many thousands of dollars do I have to spend on my own money to run? How much time?
No.
How many miles does Frank have to put on his truck? We're not asking for pity here. We're asking you to wake your ass up
Yeah.
and start acting not just like men, but godly Christian men who are willing to take this country back. And this is where we have to disclaim it, right, Frank? Because then all of a sudden we get tagged as insurgents or something. We're talking about politically getting your butts involved. Go to a GOP chair, and when you see people talking like Democrats, just call them out for what they are. Because
Yeah.
even right now, people are lining up to make sure the left and the established right isn't just going to sit here and let guys like Frank and Raul or any of you who are thinking of running for any position to
Yeah.
just go in there and take it. I mean, they're not going to do that. Power is
Yeah.
taken, not given. So you're going to
Yeah.
have to go fight for it. Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, and that's unless you kissed the ring, bent the knee, and smooched
Oh,
them
yeah.
on the rear end. But
We're not
look,
we're not a bend the knee kind of people.
no.
I think by now most people know that. I think.
When you serve one Lord, brother, one
Amen.
master. But
Amen to that.
and so at the macro level, look, politics is not the ultimate solution, Raul. You know this. Politics is not the ultimate solution. The ultimate solution is the return of the Lord and the establishment of His kingdom. That being said, we're here. We got to fight, and part of that fight means learning. And so, unfortunately, a lot of people in this district and throughout the state and the country do not learn. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. And so right now we have in the 23rd congressional district, we have people running around that are showing all the polishedness and it's all a front. It's
You mean
what it
there's
all
somebody?
is.
Wait a minute, Frank. You mean there's
Yeah.
somebody prettier than you and me? No way,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
yeah.
And so what happens, bro, is that people do not learn. Yeah. Look, I posted, and I see your perspective there, Emilio Lira. You guys are rhino. We're not rhinos, brother. We are Americans, and we are Texans, and we are conservatives. We are patriots. We're constitutionalists. I posted right there the Texas Republican platform, and what has happened is it might as well be toilet paper for people that do not know what that platform stands for and what it means. And so we have candidates running around that call themselves Republicans, but they don't even know what the platform is, and they wouldn't even know where to find it. And so that's the thing, is that they don't learn. And then the other thing is that whenever you do get true patriots, true conservatives out there that want to fight for a country, that believe in Republican values, that believe in the Republican platform, people don't jump in. But when you have people do jumping in, they don't help them. They don't block walk for them. They don't volunteer to be their city or county or precinct coordinators to help them. They don't donate to them. And so that's why we are in the state we are in. And unfortunately, we have a lot of people that have been just desensitized, and they live on the surface. Hey, you got to wave the Republican flag. Hey, you gotta vote red to keep it red. And they're just on the surface. They are the useful idiots to these globalists operators who are pulling the puppet strings behind the scenes. And that is what part of the problem is that we just have a segment of our society. They might as well be zombies, because they're going through the motions, but they don't really know what life is about.
Well, and back to the start your own party thing here, I think more and more people are getting to a point where they're becoming independents, Frank, and I don't disagree that independents are deciding the races, but at some point here, because I forget who said this, but we are now the Whig Party of back in the 1800s or whatever that was, because those folks weren't listening to their constituents, and of course they went by way of history, because that happens in this country, right? And I think we're starting to see that juggernaut of one of these parties isn't going to survive if it cannot keep its base. And the Democrats seem to be able to do a really good job of keeping their base. I'm not a Democrat. I don't believe in anything that they're saying. But the Republican Party can't proselytize, if that's a right word, all these things that really are godly in their charter and their planks and the things that they say they want to do, because they're pro-life and they're everything that you're supposed to be according to the
Bible. Be a good Republican.
Right, that's right. But but except the elected Republicans aren't following. If they don't change, we don't change the course by which we elect these Republicans, or muster enough people to counter them in the primaries. I don't see the Republican Party surviving. And at some point, this goes to folks who go get your own party. Well, that may happen. That may happen by natural evolution of politics, because it's happened before, and maybe we're seeing that. Maybe we're not. All I can tell you, there's a lot of disgruntled Republican conservatives, because even from a very pragmatic approach to things, how is it pragmatic to allow $33 trillion to just be on the credit card? How is it pragmatic to have open borders and watch as people in Del Rio, Eagle Pass, everywhere, and now all the way to Chicago and Illinois or New York, feel the wrath of this illegal alien invasion? I mean, and we could go on with fentanyl. We can go on with the Chinese. We can go on. That's not even business-like. That's not even pragmatic. This is purposeful. I really hope they grow some cojones down in Austin and do something about the border. But if it's any indication of how the, choice school bill is going, about how the border bill is going to go, we're not going to get squat, Frank, because school choice was supposed to be everybody, and now they're down to 28,000 kids. I'm not sure where's the rest of the Texas kids, where are their families going to be able to, anyway. Bottom line here is we're not even an opposition party anymore. We're just sort of we're in second place, and we like it because some people get to make money, and the rest of us are being told to shut up and color red. Not going to happen anymore.
And so what happens is, it's what we've been talking about. You have people in their comfort zones, bro. They don't want to put forth the effort to fight against it. They don't want to. They don't want to put the effort in. And look, that's what happened with the revolution. You had the small percentage of people,
Yeah.
the 3%ers, man, that fought against the occupation and the tyranny, which was an affront to God because He gave us freedom. And so, very small group of people. And what we're doing here is sounding the alarm. See, this is what happens. They want to kill the messenger, and the prophet has no honor in his own home. In this sense, for us being, in a sense, the Republican Party being our home, that there is no honor for the prophets, because we are speaking the hard truth. And if we could reach across the screen and slap him in the face to wake him up, and then if that would work, that is what we would do. But for now, we have words to say.
Yeah.
And look, Raul, here in this district and throughout the state of Texas, we have been right. We said Tony Gonzalez is dangerous.
Yep.
And he has turned out to be not just dangerous to our district, but dangerous to America through his actions.
He's everything we said he was going to be.
And worse. Worse.
By the way, we some people that were helping us in the campaign, somehow there's enough money. There's enough money to keep you working for that guy. Then you really don't have integrity. And I don't care. You can call me out on it. People are still getting paid to be a part of that. At some point, it's got to bother you to wake up and realize you work for scum and liars. Well, no, seriously, because
I just get that image, bro.
Yeah. We got to get the scum removal bubbles or whatever. Boy, if we were that easy, right? The bottom line there is at some point you got to have enough integrity about who you are and what you want to do. If you have no interest in saving America, I mean, because that's not your thing, and you're here to grow a family or be a farmer. Hey, man, God bless you. But the rest of us who are telling you the truth, we said it to you back with Tony Gonzalez. We said it to you with John Cornyn the last time we elected that rhino. But everybody's running around, keep it red. I don't think it's going to fly anymore. Let me tell you something, and I'll get into the identity politics for a second. Is I don't see how you convince Latinos to come to this side anymore. We are conservative, but so is Black America, so is Asian America. Hey, newsflash, so is white America. You're losing all of those colors. That's all Americans to the Republican Party because they have failed to uphold the very principles that the Republican planks say they are. A lot of us believe in the planks. We believe in what the Republican Party conservative values are, but we don't believe in those elected Republicans who seem to not give two craps about what we say or what we do because they've turned into elites. I'm very, very curious if anybody knows. We need to find out the economic disclosure for Tony Gonzalez. I'm going to bet that he's worth $2 million already. And the guy only makes 170 a year. So I'm not sure. He's probably invested in things that get him the money, but he's probably stinking rich like everybody else is, Frank. But let me turn the tide and sort of go from there just a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's go to CD23 specifically. Any news flash? I mean, I know that you were doing the exploratory thing.
Yeah.
And I know you're still working on that. For everybody who is listening, last week said that we're now looking at it. We're off our seats. We're sort of in the recliner, kicking back. We've done our part to explain to you what's going to happen. But I know Frank has been eyeing that as well. There's other candidates in this race, right? And I don't know that I necessarily bash one candidate, but one candidate is from Dallas. So. And he sounds and looks a lot like Tony Gonzalez. So, it's got to be a backup, but just in case, I think. Everybody else, I've admitted, I think are decent or good candidates. I'm not tracking them that much, but I'm tracking them enough that I'm potentially going to look into this. You've actually went out as far and said, I'm doing an exploratory. What's the latest and greatest, Frank?
Yeah. So look, I did send out a text to folks, and I haven't made a formal announcement on Facebook. I'm going to do that in a day or two. But part of this, Raul, and I'll just be, I'm going to lay it out here, brother.
Yeah.
When people want people to run, you got to run for this, run for that, whatever.
But
what it takes, brother, they want you to run, and it's almost like there's a disconnect. And they'll say, well, it's going to be hard on your family. Yeah, because you got to spend time outside the home. You've got to invest your own personal money, effort, resources. You and I have gone through car sets and tires, sets of tires for our vehicles, etc. There is that, and there seems to be a disconnect that it also takes some money, at least to file to get on the ballot and get money to travel and stuff. It's just, I don't see how people can be disconnected and oblivious from that. And I use the analogy of, they want you to go fight, and they're pushing you, go fight, push, and we'll be with you. We're there for you. And you charge into battle, and you look back, and they're all on the sidelines looking, just see how you're gonna do.
I'm gonna say in Spanish, no hay nadie.
And ¿dónde están? Se espantaron, they got scared or whatever. But I'll use this analogy from our ground wars and say, for instance, Iraq, brother, where you have the artillery pounding and the airstrikes, etc. But at some point or another, the troops have got to go in, and they've got to kick those doors in, and they got to go street by street, city by city, clearing out the scene, and you get a semblance of control. You work with your local partners, etc., etc. And so you establish a presence and some semblance of order and day-to-day life kind of thing. But what happens is, and then those initial warriors are pulled out, and then come in the replacements, etc. At some point or another, though, if the replacements start losing control, start getting complacent, and they're not vigilant anymore, the true warriors have got to step in. And so what I'm saying, Raul, is that right now in Congressional District 23, we have players, we have politicians, we have posers. Honestly, bro, we have opportunists and carpetbaggers and grifters. And so what we need are warriors. We need warriors. And so that's why I'm asking for people to help. We have studied the lay of the land. We looked at this district when I was your campaign manager that you ran for office, and we know the lay of the land. We know the people. We know the dynamics. We know who the players are, who the actors are. And so we know this battlefield. We know this opponent. And the way we got to take Tony Gonzalez out is to get him in a runoff, at least in the primary election. Now, I'll say this, brother. I believe that if I jump in all the way, if people will step up and help me at least get on the ballot, if I can get on there, bro, and you said you're considering it, it is conceivable, given the current dynamics, that he is one of the most hated, if not the most hated Republican in Texas, and certainly in his district. It may be outside the realm here, an outlier in some chart somewhere, but it would be a sweet deal to get that guy in third place in a runoff election to where we just totally kick him out. But in order for that to happen, people have got to get behind. You need enough players, but you need the right players.
You're right.
People like you and I that know what needs to be done.
Well, and this is to everybody. I mean, we said we were having this conversation. We're having it now. Frank's thinking about it. We are as well. No hard decisions being made right now, other than to tell you that and look, this is no hit to the other candidates that I know and I like. Maybe one I don't like, but that's beside the point. Is that you need 5-6 solid conservative that can pull 5,000 or 6,000 votes each, and get him under 50%. And then get into a runoff with somebody, and let the people decide. Is the new guy from Dallas the guy? And that tells me no expressions there.
I'm not good at playing poker, I guess, but anyways.
You would not make a good poker player, my friend. But again, the hard part, Frank, and we've had this discussion too, is not realizing that you wake up and you want to quit. I want to quit. But how do I do that when my hometown, your current place of residency, Del Rio, Texas, not only does it not have pensionable jobs that people like me and my kids could go home to, because that is home. Del Rio, Texas is home. You see, I think the world of San Antonio, it's a great place to live too, but we all want to go back to our communities, but we can't because there's not pensionable jobs. And over the years, politicians did that. They sold us out to
Yeah.
Thailand and China and everything else. And here's the other piece now, because it's been now more so than ever. We don't have a secure Del Rio, Eagle
Yeah.
Pass, San Antonio, and I can go all the way to New York
Yeah.
because because one, our current president has changed the immigration law, whatever the case, the policies that make it happen, Mayorkas, add them all together. But
Yeah.
then we don't have an opposition party, the Republican Party, excuse me, doing everything it needs to do to
Yeah.
get that to change back to the way it is. We can't even impeach Mayorkas. We can't impeach Joe Biden. I mean, right now the speakership is in total chaos, and people are still going to look at Tony. This is what really gets me, and and I go to them. I could go to any other organizations, Texas Right to Life, the Farm Bureau, Texas Alliance for Life, pick it.
Yeah.
But I usually go to the Republican Women's Group, and I keep asking, are you still going to endorse this guy? Are you still going to
Yeah.
get behind him because he gave you a few bucks? Are you really going to sell your grandchildren now? Because it's mostly wonderful
Older.
old elder ladies. And I met a lot of them. I like them. Some they don't like me. I don't care. The bottom line is, here's the thing: is the question is, you're selling your grandkids out for a guy named Tony Gonzalez. And if you're up in North Texas, Michael McCall's another guy. If you're over there in Houston, Dan Crenshaw's another guy, because
Yeah.
you keep thinking we're going to play nice.
Yeah.
And the answer is we can't afford to do that. You're right. I think 3 to 5% of America gets involved in politics. They're the ones that make all the decisions. And
Yeah.
but we get to be the counter voice to it. And that's what we're doing here tonight. Back
Right.
to CD23. Just let us know when you make a decision.
Yeah.
We ourselves are going to put out a few emails and surveys and make a few phone calls.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily make up our decision. I mean, it'd be great if everybody came on board and said go
Yeah.
for it, which they've
Yeah.
been doing. But at the end of the day, it's going to be between me and God, and I'm sure you as well and God.
Yeah, it's certainly my family, of course. And look, Raul, I think this process that we're talking about here, we're so far removed from what the founders had to deal with, but there are some remnants of that in our American fiber and American DNA here, and so what I'm referring to is. And certainly you could find this around the world where people realize how dangerous the situation has become. And I'm not just solely talking about, who's coming across the border and the drug problems. I'm talking about the way our society is melting down, the rate of fatherlessness, the transgender movement that is happening. Look, there's stuff that people deal with in their lives, and I'm against legislating in the bedroom, etc. But there are morals and there are bedrock principles here. But when you start messing with children's minds, and you're indoctrinating them, that is too far. And piggybacking on that, there is a deep fetish, a deep hunger in this country for the bodies of little boys and little girls. And they are doing horrible, unspeakable things to them. And where is the moral outrage in this country about that? We should be, I mean, I use the term up in arms, but what I'm talking about is we should be up and angry about this. But at the same time, Raul, also, this process is what our founding fathers went through when they saw the situation. It was not ideal. It was contrary to the law of nature's God, and they said this is not the will of we the governed, and there has to be consent of the governed to give authority and room for the operations of government, etc., to take place. And right now, our government is not working according to our will. And so there's the attacks on America and everything that it is are physical, they're economic, they're ideological, they're cultural, they're spiritual, certainly. And so we are so far removed from our biblical foundations. People don't like to hear that, but it is the truth, our Judeo-Christian foundation.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I have referenced it several times. The Word of God, there's a macro dynamic at work here, but that is for the sweet by and by. We are in the now and nasty, and this is where we need fighters to get in there who are going to speak the truth, not as a not trying to purposely offend people, but the truth hurts, Raul. You know that the truth
Yeah.
is sometimes a hammer, and you
Anytime
got to
you
wield
say,
that hammer.
yeah, anytime you drop a truth bomb, and there's no way
Yeah.
of saying it nice. I mean, sometimes we try to disclaim it a little bit here and there, and
Yeah.
because we know we know the times that we're functioning in here.
Yeah.
But I would tell you, look, and I think that's the problem I have with any Republican or a politician, especially a guy like Tony Gonzalez.
Yeah.
His job was simply to go up and not vote for in favor of the government telling you what to do in your bedroom.
Exactly.
You need to defend against the government telling Texans how to live their lives. And if whatever lifestyle that is, Texas agrees to it, like
Yeah.
California, hey, at least it's local to Texas, because
Yeah.
I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm here to
Yeah.
work to keep the federal government from encroaching on your life. Doesn't
Yes.
matter what taxes, your behind the bedroom thing, whatever your lifestyle is. Our congressmen are supposed to go up there, Frank, and defend and keep the federal government from keeping encroaching on not just individual lives, but
Yeah.
Texas as well. Because guess what? Why else do we have a legislative body in Austin? Of course, they're a
Yeah.
bunch of wimps too right now, and they're not doing the right thing. But and this is how we become a monarchy, folks, is all of a sudden you wake up and you gave the federal government a right to tell you what lifestyle you can or can't live, what you can and can't
Yeah.
say. We are the United States of America, not the federal states of America. I wish people would understand that. And you're right,
Yeah.
Frank. We're here to tell the truth. All I can tell you on my part for CD23 is I might be investing into more of these. Do you have a cool hat like this?
Oh man. Okay.
I busted it out. I just
Yeah.
thought I'd throw
I
that out
remember the
there.
hat, bro.
Yeah, we're back to the hat. But anyway, Frank, we're pulling a Joe Rogan here, so we're going to wind it down a little bit. And but
Yeah.
it's been a great conversation. Give me the last minute and a half. What are your final thoughts here today?
I got some thoughts here for sure, Raul. I was thinking about our founding fathers and what led them to a revolution, but you also look at world history, and so I think about places like Nazi Germany, where it wasn't just Jews that were being killed. It was folks that led a life that they didn't agree with. They went after the mentally ill. They went after the gay segment of their society. They went after teachers and the educated. And so what I'm trying to say here is that government will turn on its own. They will eat their own.
Oh yeah.
Because at some point or another, they have to do that to stay in power, and they don't have any moral restraints. Look, our government officials within our government killed people in our country, and I'm talking not just the CIA operations with the drugs coming in, not just with Mayorkas and Biden, what they're doing on the border, where eventually Americans will be physically impacted by that with crime, etc. I'm talking about what happened with the vax and what consequences it's having on our society and on different members of our society, where young people in the prime of their health are dropping dead. And so these are my thoughts. The patterns tend to come back. Patterns will play out and they will repeat themselves in human history. And we have to learn from these patterns. And government has a tendency to want to oppress and suppress freedoms. And so it's not a good thing. It's supposed to be. That's why our founding fathers believed in a limited government, a small federal government. What took place with some of this legislation in the states, ruling, in favor of gay marriage, whatever. Look, that is why the church also has to get involved, and why conservatives people have to get involved. And
Yeah.
what we see is very few people that make the time and the effort, and that is why we are in the situation we're in. But we have a template here, which is the states' rights. And,
Yep.
and when it's at the state level, then the people have to be massively involved and not sit back and just wait on a few activists to jump into the arena. And that is a problem for us. It is very difficult, I think, because even if to turn it around, because even Raul, if we win across the board elections, okay, those are just the elected officials. But
Yeah.
remember, we have the deep state. We have careerists who are so entrenched in education and in the finance and in government, etc.
Yeah.
I mean, you're trying to pull out a million weeds that have deep roots, and so this is a generational fight. And so there is no easy solution to this. All I can say is learn and get behind good people, support them, donate, tell others about them.
Well, there you go. Frank, thanks for joining us today. I
Yes, sir.
appreciate the good words, and God bless you, brother. Let us know when you decide to go one way or the other, and we're going to see you real soon, okay?
God bless you, man. Take
All right.
care.
Thank you, sir. All right, we went super long, but that's okay because that sort of happens with Frank and I. If you knew we had 3 hour, 4 hour sessions, went on the road somewhere, you would believe me now. What I'm going to say is, look, Frank's right. Got to get out there and find the right people to get behind. Remember, this is a podcast where we're just trying to kind of explore all the different things that are out there. We certainly want to talk about CD23. We have a kind of keen knowledge of what's happening out there, and so you heard it there. Frank Lopez still thinking about whether he's going to run or not. I've certainly busted out my hat just to see how many people will still wear it, and we'll see what happens. But the bottom line here is, some of us just don't know how to quit on the country we love, because this is the country that is going to be here for our children, and if we don't go fight for it now, uh, it may be at a point where they're going to have to do it, and they might as well be doing that too now and later. But the bottom line is, I'm trying to save my kids the headache of $33 trillion, maybe 35 if before the year's over. The way things are going, open porous borders that leads people to come in, illegal aliens that have no assimilation or any inclination to assimilate into this country. And when you don't do that, it's not the melting pot, it's an invasion. You see it in France, you see it in Switzerland, you see it everywhere. People are fighting back, but what is taking years to for the world governments to accomplish is going to take us a long time to get it back. But we can't quit. We're going to have to just keep doing all we can to save this country, save Texas. But it starts by sending the right people up to Congress. It starts by sending the right city council people to city council, your county judges, your county commissioners. When your county commissioner flips and goes with the guy he absolutely hated, you got to start to ask yourself, there's something going on there. But look, money, and Frank is right, greed takes hold on some people, and this is where you end up with this country. At a certain point, we're not going to be able to sustain this. It's just not sustainable. If we were $1 trillion in debt and we were bringing in 5 or 6 trillion, maybe a different story, because you carry a certain amount of debt, but no debt is good either way. But we're at 33. We're going to be at 50% of the total income that comes as far as paying the interest on that, because we're quickly approaching $1 trillion on just the interest. We're not there yet, but it's going to happen. And when that happens, what do? We don't make enough money to pay the debt off. Somehow it doesn't look pretty, and economics, banks collide. They just fall apart, and they make 2008 look like child's play, because when you run out of money that you've printed so much, it's not a good spot right now. The markets are not, doesn't matter what you hear on TV, long-term bonds, the whole 9 yards. I don't profess to be an expert. They're not going to good places. I do have friends that are probably listening here. So no, great. Just the bottom line is the dollar isn't as strong as it used to, and there's people, Venezuela, Russia, Iran, China, making a play to replace the dollar across the global markets. People don't believe it will happen until it does, and it's too late. And then what do we do? All that said, it's been wonderful talking to you all tonight. I was thrilled to have Frank on here. Uh, Follow him at Frank Lopez, the U.S. Border Patriot. He jumps out there once in a while. He's on the border. He's at home. He's everywhere. He's telling the truth, as I am here, about what we need to do to move this country forward. But you're going to have to open your eyes and see. You're going to have to open up your ears to hear that some of the people that have been telling you to vote Republican for said people, they aren't the ones. If we haven't seen it by now with all the stuff that's happening in Austin and at the federal level, then we can't help you. But we're going to keep being here every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Let your friends know, show up, and we'll be happy to keep talking. And we'll soon decide whether we're going to throw this hat back on. No 100% certainty. We're gonna make some phone calls. We're gonna send a couple of surveys out. We're gonna definitely be at a couple of places, so you might see us real soon. In fact, I'll tell you straight out that I'm going to be in Del Rio on Thursday night at the. I'll be rolling down into the Republican women's group down there. I think Frank might be in there. He'll nod at me if he's yes, so I can say that or not. And I just got the nod. He's going to be there. So if you're in Del Rio, come out and see us. I think it's at 6 o'clock. Well, we'll check the time and put it on there. We're going to start to make the rounds, and somebody put in on the notes, note well taken. Not all the votes are at the Republican. That's not the point here. Is so much that we have to start. If you say you're Christian, you don't have to be perfect, but you got to try to live that life. So if you say you're a Republican, you don't have to be perfect, but man, you can't be a Democrat either. I mean, that's the point here. So if you're going to wear the Republican name, at least start calling people out that are not Republican, or else we're not going to be able to fix this country. You may not have a lot of votes, but don't say you're Republican or conservative this, and then go hire a guy like the Rhino, Tony Gonzalez, or Mitch McConnell, or John Cornyn. Don't insult us like this anymore. Because guys like me and Frank, we're going to be espousing the truth, because we want people to realize, hey, it is time to take this country back. And that's coming from an old retired lieutenant colonel. I don't know a lot, but I do know. I almost said bad word, because my pastor may be listening. So I'll say I do know bull crap when I see it. Okay. And so the bottom line is we've been fed a lot of crap for a long time, and it's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. That's all we're doing here. Anyway, all that said, God bless you. My wife's like, get off. You're talking too much. We really did pull a Joe Rogan tonight, but it was fun. I can do this for hours, especially with a guest like Frank, because we just have absolutely great conversations. If you have any comments, leave them down there. We're on Twitter. We're obviously on Facebook, and we're on YouTube, but they don't throw us offline because they hate it when we berate Joe Biden and or talk about crazy things like the COVID virus and all this other stuff, which we're going to have a conversation about soon. I guarantee it. Other than that, if you're in Del Rio, we'll see you on Thursday. Is it? Yep. Time to turn the lights off. God bless you. Good night. And we will see you next time.